Okay, so um, we're all trying to, you know, eat a little healthier this year, right?
Hmm.
But sometimes those sugar and carb cravings, man, they just hit hard.
Yeah, they really do. It's not just about willpower, though. What's so interesting is that those cravings are like deeply rooted in our biology and even our
So
psychology.
it's like our bodies are working against us.
Kind of like
Like,
a science experiment gone wrong, but it's happening inside of
I
us.
like that analogy. Okay.
Mhm.
So we're diving deep today into this health article called Four Reasons We Crave Sugar or Carbohydrates and How to Manage Them.
Exactly. We're going to figure out why those cravings are so powerful. And more importantly, we'll give you some strategies to take back control.
Awesome. Let's start with something I've heard of but never really understood, this whole blood sugar roller coaster thing.
Okay, so imagine this. You eat a sugary donut.
Ooh, donuts.
Your blood sugar, it's going to skyrocket, right? Gives you that quick burst of energy, but then just as quickly it plummets and you're left feeling sluggish and craving another sugar fix.
Oh, so that's why I get that mid-afternoon slump and suddenly I need cookies. Like it's a real thing. It's not just me being weak.
It's a real thing. That's your body screaming for a quick energy boost. But here's the catch. Giving in to that craving just makes the cycle worse. It's like adding fuel to the fire.
Right. Makes sense.
Now,
So it's not just the energy crashes then.
no, over time it can contribute to other things too, like mood swings, digestive problems, even inflammation in your gut.
Okay, definitely not what I'm going for.
But it's not
Just about energy levels, right? Our article talks about hormones being involved too.
Yeah, hormones play a huge role. It's like a hormone party in your brain.
I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Okay, so two key players here are dopamine and serotonin. These are powerful brain chemicals that affect our mood, appetite, sense of reward.
Right, okay.
So when you eat sugary foods, your brain releases dopamine, which creates this feeling of pleasure, and that feeling makes you crave that sugary reward even more.
It's like we're training our brains to want more and more sugar.
Exactly. And then there's serotonin. It helps regulate our mood and feelings of fullness, and serotonin levels can fluctuate throughout the day, which can influence when those cravings hit us hardest.
That's interesting. I've definitely noticed that my cravings seem to get worse later in the day. Is that a thing or am I imagining it?
You're not imagining it. And you know, there's also some evidence that women experience more intense carb cravings than men.
Oh, that's interesting. Why is that?
Well, ladies, have you ever noticed how those carb cravings seem to hit hardest right before your period?
Oh my gosh, yes. Pass the breadbasket.
Right. That's likely due to the dip in serotonin levels that happens during that part of your cycle. Now, there's also been a lot of talk about low-carb diets and how they might affect mood.
Yeah, like are people on low-carb diets just constantly grumpy?
Well, it's true that cutting carbs can initially cause a temporary dip in serotonin, but recent studies have shown that there's not much of a long-term connection between low-carb diets and an increased risk of anxiety or depression.
Okay, that's good to know. So it's not a guarantee that you'll be miserable if you cut carbs.
Not at all. But you know, there's another interesting thing about cravings on low-carb diets. Sometimes what you think is a craving for sugar might actually be your body signaling something totally different.
Really? So like when I'm craving a donut, my body might actually just be thirsty.
Exactly, especially on low-carb diets like keto, which often leads to increased urination. This can dehydrate you and mess with your electrolytes, which can trigger cravings that feel just like those for sugary or carb-rich foods.
Wow, that's a game changer. I'm starting to realize that cravings are way more complex than I thought. But we can't forget about stress. We all know that when we're stressed, we tend to reach for those comfort foods. What's the science behind that?
Well, stress triggers our bodies to release cortisol, which is our primary stress hormone, and cortisol can actually directly increase our cravings for those sugary comfort foods.
Okay, so it's not just me giving in to temptation. There's an actual biological reason why I want a whole pan of brownies after a stressful day.
Exactly. Your body goes into survival mode looking for a quick energy boost and a hit of that dopamine to fight those negative feelings.
There's like a double whammy. Stress makes you crave sugary foods, and then eating those foods can make you feel more stressed because you're not hitting your health goals.
It really is a vicious cycle. But the good news is that by understanding these connections, we can start to break that cycle. Recognizing stress as a trigger for those cravings is the first step toward taking back control.
Okay, enough with the doom and gloom. Let's talk about solutions. Our article outlines 4 key strategies for managing these cravings and getting back in control.
Awesome. Well, it all starts with a balanced diet. And don't worry, this doesn't mean depriving yourself. It's about making sure you're getting enough protein and fiber in each meal to promote satiety and stabilize your blood sugar levels.
That's music to my ears. So what does a balanced craving-busting meal actually look like?
Let's see. For breakfast, ditch the sugary cereal and try Greek yogurt with berries and a sprinkle of nuts and seeds.
Okay, I can get behind that.
The yogurt gives you protein. The berries offer fiber, and those healthy fats from the nuts and seeds will keep you full and energized for hours.
So much better than that sugar crash an hour after breakfast. What about lunch?
For lunch, swap that white bread sandwich for a big salad loaded with protein. Grilled chicken fish or even lentils are great options. And don't forget to add some healthy fats like avocado or a light vinaigrette to keep you satisfied.
Okay, so ditch the sad desk salad and pump up the protein. Got it? What about dinner?
For dinner, focus on lean protein sources like chicken breast salmon or tofu, paired with lots of non-starchy vegetables like broccoli, Brussels sprouts, or asparagus.
I love roasted veggies. That's making
Yeah.
me hungry. But what about carbs? Are they completely off limits?
Not at all. It's about choosing the right carbs. Instead of white rice or pasta, opt for quinoa brown rice or sweet potatoes. These complex carbs are packed with fiber and nutrients and won't spike your blood sugar like their refined counterparts.
Okay, so smart swaps are key. Instead of chips, have some almonds. Instead of soda, drink water or unsweetened tea. Little changes, big impact.
You got it. It's all about finding healthier options that you actually enjoy. Things that satisfy your taste buds without making you feel deprived.
I like that. And it's not about being perfect all the time, right? It's about making progress.
Exactly. It's about finding what works for you and building a sustainable approach to healthy eating.
This is great, but it sounds like we're just scratching the surface here.
We are. There's so much more to uncover when it comes to cravings. When we come back, we'll dive deeper into the psychology behind cravings, focusing on stress management and sleep.
Awesome. Can't wait.
Welcome back. So we've been talking about the science behind sugar and carb cravings.
Right.
Like how our blood sugar goes up and down, and those hormones, dopamine and serotonin play a role.
Yeah, it's been really eye-opening.
But now I think it's time to dive into the psychology of cravings. Like what's going on in our minds?
Yeah, you're talking about stress eating, right? Because I know when I'm feeling super stressed, all my good intentions about healthy eating just go out the window.
Yeah, exactly. It's more than just reaching for comfort food, though. Stress actually has this physiological impact on our cravings. When we're stressed, our bodies pump out cortisol, and cortisol can directly increase those cravings for sugary, high-calorie foods.
So you're saying there's like a biological reason why I crave a whole pan of brownies after a super stressful day?
Right.
It's not just me being weak.
It's not just you. Your body goes into survival mode. It's looking for that quick energy boost and a hit of dopamine to like counteract those negative feelings.
Oh, wow. So it's like a double whammy. Stress makes you crave sugary foods, and then eating those foods can actually make you feel more stressed because you know you're not making healthy choices.
It really is a vicious cycle. But the good news is that once we understand this connection, we can start to break the cycle. Recognizing stress as a trigger for those cravings is like the first step toward taking back control.
Okay, that makes sense. But like life is stressful. How do we actually manage that stress so we don't just run to the pantry every time things get tough?
Right. We can't like eliminate stress completely, but we can definitely learn to manage it in healthy ways that don't involve raiding the pantry. Have you ever tried meditation?
I've tried those apps with the guided meditations, but I always feel like I'm doing it wrong. Like my mind just won't be quiet.
You know what? Don't worry about doing it right or wrong. It's called a meditation practice for a reason. It takes time to figure out what works for you. There are so many different types of meditation, like guided meditations, walking meditations, even meditations that focus on specific emotions like gratitude or compassion. Just experiment and see what feels good for you.
I do love a good gratitude list. Maybe gratitude meditation would be a good place to start. What about yoga? That always helps me de-stress.
Yoga is amazing. It combines physical movement with deep breathing and mindfulness, which can be so calming and grounding. And honestly, don't underestimate just spending time in nature. Even a short walk in the park or sitting under a tree for a few minutes can do wonders for your stress levels.
I totally agree. Nature is my happy place for sure. It's like a reset button for my brain.
Ah.
Okay, so finding healthy ways to manage stress is super important for managing cravings. But our article also talks a lot about sleep. What's the connection there?
Well, when we don't get enough sleep, our hunger hormones go all out of whack, which makes us way more likely to give in to those cravings. Lack of sleep increases ghrelin, which is the hormone that tells us we're hungry. And it decreases leptin, which is the hormone that tells us we're full.
So basically, when we're tired, our bodies are just like, feed me, give me energy now. And then, of course, we reach for the quick and easy sugary snacks.
Exactly. Your body wants that quick energy boost to make up for the lack of sleep, but those sugary snacks don't give you lasting energy, and they can even make you feel more sluggish in the long run.
Okay, so how much sleep do we actually need to keep those cravings in check and keep our hunger hormones balanced?
Most adults need somewhere between 7 and 8 hours of quality sleep each night. I know it's hard with our busy lives, but prioritizing sleep is one of the best things you can do for your overall health and well-being. And that includes managing those cravings.
You know what? I am definitely a much happier and more energetic person when I'm well rested.
Hmm.
But I've struggled with sleep in the past. What are some good tips for getting better sleep?
Honestly, creating a relaxing bedtime routine can make a huge difference. Try taking a warm bath, reading a book, or listening to calming music to wind down before bed. Avoid screen time for at least an hour before bed. That blue light from our phones and computers can really mess with our sleep cycles.
Ugh, I am so guilty of scrolling through social media before bed. It's so hard to resist.
I know it's such a common habit, but making an effort to disconnect and create a more sleep-friendly environment can really pay off.
Okay.
Make sure your bedroom is dark, quiet, and cool. And if you're still having trouble falling asleep or staying asleep, don't hesitate to talk to your doctor. There might be some underlying issues that need to be addressed.
This is all so interesting. It's amazing how connected everything is when it comes to our health.
Hmm.
Stress, sleep, hormones, food choices, it all plays a role.
Absolutely. It's not just about willpower. It's this complex web of factors. But the good thing is that by understanding these factors, we can start to take back control.
Okay, so speaking of taking back control, we've talked about the importance of a balanced diet, making healthy food swaps. But let's dive a little deeper into some specific strategies for getting more protein and fiber into our meals and snacks.
Right. We talked about how protein and fiber are key for stabilizing blood sugar and making us feel full. But let's get specific. So for breakfast, Greek yogurt is a powerhouse. It's packed with protein, and you can pair it with berries for fiber and a sprinkle of nuts and seeds for healthy fats.
Huh.
That combo will keep you feeling full and energized for hours.
That sounds delicious and so much more satisfying than my usual boring bowl of cereal. What about lunch?
Salads are great, but make sure to load them up with protein and healthy fats so you don't feel hungry an hour later. Grilled chicken, fish, lentils, avocado, a light vinaigrette, those are all good additions to make your salad a real meal.
Yeah, that's a good tip. I always feel like salads leave me hungry, but adding more protein and healthy fats makes a big difference.
It really does. And for dinner, focus on those lean protein sources like chicken breast salmon or tofu. Pair those with lots of non-starchy vegetables like broccoli, Brussels sprouts, or asparagus.
I love roasted veggies. It sounds like a lot of this comes down to making smart swaps. Like instead of reaching for a bag of chips, grab a handful of almonds or a piece of fruit. Instead of that sugary soda, go for water or unsweetened tea. Small changes add up over time, right?
Exactly. It's about finding those healthier alternatives that you actually enjoy, things that satisfy your taste buds and don't make you feel like you're missing out. And remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about making progress and finding what works for you.
That's a great takeaway. Progress over perfection. We're all human. We're all going to have those moments where we give in to a craving.
But by understanding the science behind those cravings and having a toolkit of strategies, we can make healthier choices more often than not.
You got it. And remember, you're not alone in this. We all struggle with cravings sometimes. The key is to be kind to yourself, celebrate your successes, and keep learning and growing along the way.
I love that. Be kind to yourself. It's so easy to beat ourselves up when we don't meet our goals. But it's important to remember that we're all works in progress. We're going to make mistakes, we're going to have setbacks, but that's okay. What matters is that we keep moving forward.
That's the spirit. And by focusing on these simple but powerful strategies, you can make sustainable changes that support your overall well-being and help you achieve your health goals. It's all about finding what works for you and creating a sustainable approach to healthy eating. This has been so insightful. We've covered so much today. From the blood sugar roller coaster to the power of hormones to the importance of stress management and sleep, and even practical tips for making healthier choices. But there's one more crucial aspect of managing cravings that we haven't talked about yet. Mindfulness.
You're right. Mindfulness plays a huge role in how we relate to food.
Yeah,
And it can be so helpful in breaking free from those automatic craving cycles.
this sounds fascinating. But we're almost out of time for this segment. Stay tuned. When we come back, we'll explore the concept of mindful eating and how it can help us to make more conscious choices about the food we eat. Welcome back. So we've been talking about all these different factors that contribute to sugar and carb cravings,
Right.
like the science behind it, the hormones, stress management, getting enough sleep.
Yeah, it's a lot to think about.
It is. But there's one more really important tool that we haven't talked about yet, mindfulness.
Oh, yeah, mindfulness is huge. It's amazing how often we just eat on autopilot, mindlessly grabbing snacks or finishing a whole bag of chips without even realizing it.
Oh my gosh, I am so guilty of that. Especially when I'm working or watching TV. Like I look down and the bag's empty. Where did it all go?
Exactly. That's where mindful eating comes in. It's about bringing this conscious awareness to the act of eating, paying attention to your body's signals, and really savoring each bite.
So it's not just about what we're eating, but how we're eating.
You got it. Mindful eating helps us break free from those automatic behaviors and make more intentional choices. It starts with tuning into your body's hunger cues. Before you reach for that snack, just pause for a second and ask yourself, am I actually hungry? Or am I just bored, stressed, or emotional?
That is such a good question. I know I often reach for food when I'm feeling stressed or overwhelmed, even if I'm not physically hungry.
And that's totally normal. But by becoming aware of those triggers, we can start to make different choices. Maybe instead of grabbing those cookies, you take a few deep breaths, go for a walk, or call a friend.
Right, so it's about finding healthier ways to deal with those emotions instead of using food as a coping mechanism.
Exactly. Mindful eating also means engaging all of your senses. Like take a moment to appreciate the colors, the textures, the aromas of your food. Chew slowly and savor each bite. Pay attention to the flavors and how the food feels in your mouth.
I love that. It's like turning a meal into a whole sensory experience.
It really is. And by slowing down and paying attention, you'll probably find that you actually feel more satisfied with smaller portions. It also gives your body time to register those fullness cues, which helps prevent overeating.
This all makes so much sense, but it seems like a pretty big shift in mindset. How do we actually start incorporating mindful eating into our everyday lives?
Start small. Maybe pick one meal a day to practice mindful eating. Put away any distractions like your phone or the TV and just focus on the food in front of you. Notice the textures, the smells, the flavors. Chew slowly and really savor each bite. As you get more comfortable with it, you can start practicing mindful eating more often.
Okay, I can definitely try that. It's like making that conscious effort to connect with our food and our bodies. And, I think it ties in really well with everything else we've talked about today. Understanding our cravings, managing stress, prioritizing sleep, making healthy food choices, it's all connected.
It really is all connected. By bringing mindfulness into our eating habits, we can create this more balanced and fulfilling relationship with food, break free from those automatic cravings, and make choices that truly support our well-being.
This has been such an amazing deep dive. I feel like I've learned so much about how my body works and the tools I need to manage those cravings. It feels empowering.
I'm so glad to hear that. And just remember, it's a journey, not a destination. There are going to be ups and downs along the way. The key is to be patient with yourself, celebrate your successes, and keep learning and growing.
That is such great advice. Be patient, be kind to yourself, and keep learning. Well, we've covered so much ground today. From the science of cravings to the power of hormones to practical tips for making healthier choices and even incorporating mindfulness into our eating habits. This has been such an insightful conversation, and we hope you feel inspired to take back control of your cravings and create a healthier, happier relationship with food. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the fascinating world of sugar and carb cravings. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.